Hello, everybody. Happy Monday afternoon. Hope yours is going well. We've got another Seahawks video to get to today, but first we are at 2,510 subscribers. Still not caught up. Shout out to all the subscribers regardless. And of course, special tip of the cap goes to the channel members, especially elite channel members Y2KHA, Brendon, Mikel, Scott, Todd, Hasher for MVP, VGK Tiger 75, Salacious, Crumb, Ryguy, and Brendon Nelson's haircut. All right, another day, another future free agent to take a look at, and this is certainly going to be another one that isn't going to exactly make or break the team based on whether or not they come back, but he is a player that has developed rather nicely over the last couple years for the Seahawks, and I do think there would be some benefit to keeping him around because while a player like this is replaceable, that doesn't mean just anybody can replace them. I am talking about David Moore, a receiver who's been with the team since 2017 and has been contributing with the team since 2018. And he had an interesting 2020, and I do believe he is due for a pay raise of some sort with some team from the literal minimum that he was able to make in 2020. Last year, David Moore got a tender offer from the Seattle Seahawks and took it. It was a very low offer. And then he ended up taking a pay cut from that offer and ended up making, I think, less than $800,000 last year. And while it makes a lot of sense why he would do something like that and why the team would only be willing to keep him around if he accepted something like that, I believe that his play improved in 2020 enough to where he will probably get a little bit more money. That being said, David Moore is exactly the kind of player who's going to suffer from the salary cap going down. He will be the first to lose his potential payday. So with that in mind, let's take a look at David Moore, what he did last year, and what he did last year can tell us about his future. So 2020, David Moore had probably his best season as a pro. He had 35 catches, over 400 yards. He was also surprisingly effective as a jet sweep receiver, totaling 61 rushing yards on the season, which is quite good. And 6 touchdowns was also a career high. However, it's interesting to note that his yards per target actually was identical to 2019 because while his catch percentage skyrocketed, his yards per reception went way down. So in terms of actual receiver efficiency, you could make a pretty good argument that he wasn't that much better. That being said, I think if you're trying to answer the question of whether or not David Moore was better in 2020 than he was in 2019, you need to only scroll down to his advanced statistics and see that his QB rating when targeted went from 88 to 141 almost. So, yeah. He had a pretty effective season as a number 3 receiver, but was not great. He is certainly not in line to be making some monster contract. He will probably be paid on a year-to-year basis until he proves he can be a little bit more than a guy who totals 500 yards from scrimmage in a pretty good offense. So, real quick, Pro Football Focus says David Moore in 2020 was just under 68. They gave him a grade of just under 68. Quite good, but not exactly distinguishing himself from the pack. So let's take a look at some receivers. And we're not going to be taking a look at the big guns. We're going to be taking a look at the small guns down here because, let's face it, David Moore is a small gun. So I've gone ahead and just skipped right past all the guys at the top. I don't need to tell you that David Moore's not going to get paid like Amari Cooper or Stephon Diggs or DeAndre Hopkins. We're going to be looking down here below the top 10, the top 20, even the top 40. Because especially with the cap going down, that is what David Moore can reasonably expect to get. So we are going to start with the first player listed after the top 40 in terms of pay per year with Willie Snead, who, coming off the 2019 season, signed a 1-year, $6 million deal with the Baltimore Ravens. So Willie Snead earned this contract with his play in 2018. So let's take a look at Willie Snead in 2018 real quick. Played in all 16 games, 651 yards, 1 touchdown. So a a head above David Moore in terms of bulk production, but we're not that far away. And if you take a look, his rating when targeted was actually a lot lower than what David Moore's was, although you could pin that on the quarterback as much as anybody else. And his PFF grade for 2018 was, 67.1. So we're already in the ballpark. I don't think we're there quite yet, but it's not that outlandish. So for a guy who made less than $800,000 last year, I think it's safe to say that David Moore is putting himself in the conversation with some guys who are making a lot more money with the way he played in 2020. Okay, back to the list. Let's scroll down a little bit. Let's try to find the next good comp for David Moore. And now we're getting to some of these rookie contracts. Let's scroll past them. Keenan Cole of the Jacksonville Jaguars signed a one-year, $3.25 million deal after the 2019 season. So let's take a look at Keelan Cole and see what he did in 2019 to earn that contract. Well, he played in every game, 24 catches for 360 yards, 3 touchdowns. I feel like David Moore probably produced a little bit more in 2020 than Cole did in 2019. But again, that can easily be attributed to the situation. Obviously, when you're playing in Jacksonville, you're just not going to have the kind of offense that the Seahawks have. You're not going to have the quarterback that David Moore gets to play with. As frustrated as we all are with Wilson right now, he's certainly many times better than whatever Jacksonville's able to throw out there. And one thing with Keelan Cole that needs to be factored in is that he has had better seasons in the past. 2017, he had almost 750 yards and 3 touchdowns. The year before, he had close to 500 yards. So, to a certain extent, Keelan Cole probably got paid a bit for past performance as well as, you know, his most recent season. His PFF grade in 2019 was 66.5, so once again, we're kind of in the same ballpark. Now, I don't think we're there quite yet, but we are very close, and you could make a pretty strong argument that David Moore could make a claim for a one-year, $3.25 million deal, same as Keelan Cole got. Let's go down to the next name, a guy who got the exact same deal that Keelan Cole did, Kendrick Bourne of the 49ers, who got that deal in the same offseason. So let's take a look at Kendrick Bourne's 2019 and see what he did. All 16 games, 30 catches, 358 yards, 5 touchdowns. Yeah, I think we have pretty much hit the ballpark in terms of production. These guys actually produced a little bit less than David Moore did in 2020. Again, some of that has to do with the quarterback you get to play with. But regardless, I think we are in the right range, and Kendrick Bourne's PFF rating for 2019 was 66.7. So I think we've basically hit on David Moore's sweet spot. Now, that's being optimistic, owing to the fact that, you know, the cap went down, and players like David Moore, like I said, are going to be the first to suffer. But I think we're in the right range here. Let's do one more name. Let's just go ahead and do one more name just so we can get a full picture. Let's scroll down a little bit, go to Albert Wilson of the Miami Dolphins, who signed a contract coming off 2019 of 1 year and $3 million. So Albert Wilson, to earn this 1 year, $3 million contract, had 43 catches, 351 yards, and a touchdown. Also a little bit of work as a jet sweep receiver, 5 carries for 45 yards. So again, we're kind of at David Moore's floor in terms of production. I feel like this is kind of his worst case scenario in a typical offseason. PFF grade for Albert Wilson in 2019 was 62.3. And yeah, I don't think we can go much further than this. In terms of his production, in terms of the way he played in 2020, even though he disappeared in some games, even though he had a couple of drops, even though he was by no means great, in terms of production, these are the guys that David Moore can point to and say, I was better than these guys. I should be getting paid as much or more than them. Now, again, when you take a look at a player like David Moore, he's clearly not going to get a lot of money in an offseason like this where the cap just went down. He is the definition of a player that a team will look at and go, well, he's all right. He's nice to have. He does some cool things. I like some of the stuff he does. He's a playmaker, but if we lost him, you know, life would go on. We wouldn't miss him that much. We could get another guy and probably get 90% of what he does most of the time. So if I had to guess, David Moore's contract that he would get this offseason from either the Seahawks or another team, I would say 1 year, $3 million. I would say identical to what Albert Wilson got last offseason. He's better than Albert Wilson, but the cap went down, and I just think that's going to hurt his earning. If not for the cap going down, a player like David Moore could reasonably get like 1 year, $4.5 to $5 million. But that would be my guess right now. I say David Moore gets 1 year, $3 million, maybe $3.5 million. If there's a team out there that is receiver desperate and has a lot of cap, then maybe they break the bank a little bit, which, hey, I think David Moore played well enough to deserve somebody to fork over a little bit of money, but I don't think it's going to happen this offseason. I'm going to get out of here. See you guys in stream later tonight. Peace out. Go Hawks. That is my guess for David Moore's free agency haul this offseason. Do you want to keep him around? I know a lot of people have different takes on that. Let me know what you think. I'm out.